Welcome back to America Decides. President Trump won in 2024 with a different coalition that he assembled in 2016, the first time he won the presidency. There were more Hispanic voters the second time around. But a new poll we're going to talk about in a second shows a majority of his support among that key voting bloc might actually be in decline. According to a UnidosUS poll, 60% of Latinos in the United States believe the country is currently headed in the wrong direction. And of those who believe that, 70% hold President Trump and his administration responsible. We'll get into more of those numbers in a second. First, I want to talk to Nidia Cavazos, who joins us from Los Angeles and spoke to voters in California, Hispanic voters in particular. Nidia, what did you learn?
Major, again, it comes down to the economy being the number one concern for registered Latino voters who we spoke to in California. But if we go back to 2024, this is what we heard along the campaign trail over and over again. Across the country, across battleground states, it was the economy. They were not satisfied with the state of how they were doing economically speaking. And so they were turning out to President Trump. And it is this key electorate that essentially helped propel Trump to victory. But when we approached the 100-day mark of the Trump administration, we went out to the streets and we talked to Latino voters. And this is what they had to say in terms of how they're feeling economically speaking. Let's listen to them.
Well, right now I feel kind of, bad because the economy, since January to, like I say, January, February, March, so far is really slow, the business.
In November 2024, did you feel that President Trump was going to do good for the economy?
Well, everybody, that's the way they was thinking, but since, he's going in the chair, everything's changed a lot to me.
This Latino voter in particular, he is a business owner, and he said he supported President Trump in November 2024. But as we're approaching May, he spoke about Cinco de Mayo, how we're approaching Cinco de Mayo. And typically what this means is that it represents an opportunity for the month of April to be a month of high profits for his business, given that he sells Mexican goods and party favors. But this time around, he says it's not only the fact that people are not willing to spend. His clients are also telling him that if they're not necessarily willing to go out and about and risk being out and about, because there is a wide sense of fear over being caught up in an immigration raid or deportations. And so we're also seeing the ripple effects of what's going on with the administration in terms of executive actions dealing with immigration, dealing with economic issues here in the Latino community in California.
And did you talk to anyone who had a particular perspective on that, Nidia, on the immigration part of it?
We did. And when we approached a young man in California, he told us that, again, he supported Trump because he was not necessarily satisfied with what he saw with the Biden and Harris administration. But let's listen to what he had to say.
I feel like he was the best option because Joe Biden, he's really older and he didn't really know what he was doing. So, and I see obviously Kamala took over, but she doesn't have that much experience in office as Trump.
As a Latino, if you could have a message for Trump, what would it be?
I get that there's some bad people, but a lot of us are good. So I feel like deportation is a really sensitive topic for a lot of people. And they have family that gets deported and stuff. So I feel like he could handle that in a better way.
And Major, according to this, the poll released, the findings released by UnidosUS just this Monday and other large Latino organizations, while 60% of Latino registered voters indicated that they feel that the country is going in the wrong direction or heading in the wrong direction, there's still approval for deportations of undocumented immigrants who don't have a criminal record. But what we also saw in this poll is that over 78% of the respondents said they do not necessarily agree with the Trump administration and congressional Republicans going after immigrants who have long resided in the country and who do not have a criminal record here.
Nidia Cavazos, thank you. And by the way, I wasn't trying to teleport you to Los Angeles when I said you were joining us from Los Angeles. As a native Californian, I can recognize San Francisco right behind you and the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. My apologies for that. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We're joined now by Clarissa Martínez De Castro. She's the Vice President of Latino Vote Initiative at UnidosUS. You have this new poll. Talk to us about the numbers that most jumped out to you and what they might signal to the Trump administration 100 days in?
The president and Republicans own the economy. I think that it is very clear that economic discontent was a win in the sails of Republicans in 2024, and that helped increase Latino support for Trump. Not a majority.
No,
the majority
but
of
by
Latinos,
12 points.
Yes, indeed. The group with whom he did get over the edge was with young Latinos, Latino men. But what we're seeing right now is that wind of economic discontent, which also, by the way, helped Biden in the previous election, is now shifting against Republicans. So we see that, more than 50% are saying they are worse right now than they were a year ago. And significantly, just as many say they think they're going to be worse a year from now than they are today based on what's happening. 2/3 across the board don't agree with the war in the economic arena, the tariffs. They think that it's a bad move for the country. They think it's going to be bad for the U.S. economy. And they think it's going to be bad for them because it's going to increase prices. And ultimately, whatever people may say, I think that in 2024, the message from voters, and definitely from Latino voters, was lower prices and strengthen wages. And folks are not seeing that right now.
And Nidia talked to that business owner who said in April, typically a solid month, not so solid. That's a real verdict for him. And the other gentleman she talked to, supporting, and I saw this in the polling data that you produced for us and for your broader constituency, support for deporting criminal undocumented immigrants, but hesitation about going too far too fast.
Absolutely. And that's why one of the things that's clear to us, since we've been polling and having community conversations through the work we do over the years, is that Latino voter views are actually not changing drastically or even significantly. Their priorities, whether it is economically or on immigration, continue to be the same. On immigration, the highest policy priority for voters is legalization for the long-residing undocumented population, including dreamers, and cracking down on human smugglers and drug traffickers. But as you said, it is very clear people are 22 support deporting everybody no matter what. That has been kind of constant.
Okay.
But 8 in 10 Latino voters say, now we have to focus on dangerous criminals, but not on people who've been here for a long time and don't have criminal records.
Is one of the takeaways that Latino voter sentiment can shift, and it did in between elections 20 and 24, but the priorities don't and haven't necessarily shifted, and accountability still flows to whomever they support in whichever election?
Yeah, I mean, people may not agree with how voters, and not just Latino voters, do their math on the economy, but generally people look at how am I doing and who's in charge. So Trump, he's pointing the finger at Biden. For voters, is Trump, right? They are already putting that on him. He also promised that he was going to fix things right away.
I alone can fix it.
And people are not seeing that right away. And frankly, they're concerned they're going to be worse. But ultimately, I think it also has to do with the work that parties and candidates do to engage voters. The census just put out its report on the 2024 election, and the electorate actually shrunk. And Latinos, because we are a young population, we are always going to increase. But the Latino increase is the lowest in over 2 decades. And so while Democrats may think that they can just hang back and have the winds of economic discontent go against Republicans, if they simply do that and sit back, it's going to be at their peril.
Meaning they need to engage, mobilize, do all the things they said they were doing in the 2024 cycle, but that didn't show up in the returns.
They didn't show up. I think with Latinos often is waiting until the last minute, if at all. And when you think about, for this young electorate, 1/3 of people who go to the polls in an election year among Latinos are going to be doing so for the first time. So if you're not talking to the voters that are well established, you're definitely probably not talking to the ones that are coming into the electorate.
That's a great perspective. Clarissa Martínez De Castro, thank you so
you.
much. I appreciate you coming in.